So it's the end of the workday, hence me being at my desk. I wanted to talk to you more about my traveler's notebook since it's a little more than halfway through January and this has really become my trusty companion. I've really been enjoying it and I feel like I understand how I'm using it in my day-to-day life now. But I actually took a quick trip over the long weekend to see some of my cousins and celebrate some fun things with them. But I had so much fun that I'm losing my voice a little bit. So I think I'm just going to spend a cozy evening in, probably make myself some soup to make myself feel better, and maybe make some knitting progress on my Olga jacket since I started working on the sleeves on that one. And then I'll probably just go to bed early and continue reading my book and maybe give you a little bit of a reading update. So I ended up making an egg drop soup for dinner, which is my ultimate comfort soup when I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. Luckily, it did turn out good today. I'll probably still get hungry later tonight, considering I ate dinner at 5:30. But that's what cereal is for, my little nightcap cereal. But now I'm watching the newest season of Bake Off, which has been really good. I call it Bake Off or GBBO, I think because when I first heard about the show, everyone talking about it was British or from the UK, and they call it Bake Off. But here it's called Great British Baking Show, and I just learned that we call it baking show because the term bake off is trademarked by the Pillsbury Company. So that was a fun fact. I will continue watching some Bake Off. I'll probably get back to knitting my Olga jacket. I want to show you the progress I've been making. I did finish the body and now I'm on the sleeve. So I will check back in with you later.
It's not had quite long enough in the oven.
Oh, that's just quite close to the middle.
Why is lips black?
It is black for gunpowder and also dust. Need to wash myself after this. These do look very rusty.
So I've been knitting for a little bit on the couch and I wanted to show you a little update. So I think last time I showed my knitting, I was just finishing up the body and now I've been working on the sleeve. So I'm still on the first sleeve, but this is about how far I've gotten. So I think I have to do, I have my trusty little notebook here. I think I have to do 9 rounds of decreases and it decreases by 2 every round and I'm currently on round 8. So 8 times 2 is 16. I started with 82. So 82 minus 16 is 66 and I have to get to 64. So I just have one more round of decreases to do and I should be good to go on the sleeve decreases. Look at that, quick maths. I'm also watching Bake Off while I'm knitting, and they always talk about how they're bad at maths, but they're literally baking. I think we need to give ourselves a little bit more credit on our math skills. But that is the progress on my sleeve so far. I like the look of it. I like that the decreases aren't too big. I don't really like too much of a tapered sleeve in a sweater. I like it to be relatively rectangular like that. So that is what the sleeve looks like so far. So I have about 12 rows in one round to go. So we'll see where that ends up. And then I think it's the ribbing right after that sleeve. So this sleeve should be done relatively soon, and then I can start on the next sleeve. I actually had to go back like 2 rows because I noticed that a couple of my stitches were looking twisted, or I don't even know. But I was counting my stitches and it didn't look like I dropped any, so it was the correct number. I was just FaceTiming my sister and telling her that I had to do a little reverse and make some fixes. And she was asking me, like, how do you know how to fix it? Like, how do you know how to fix your stitches? Because she's not a knitter. And I was thinking about it and I was like, honestly, before, if I made a mistake, I would just continue on because I was at a point in my knitting journey where I really did not know what to do if I did something wrong. So before, when I was really just learning how to knit, I would often, what is it called? I think it's called a lifeline, where you add a string into all your stitches anytime like the pattern would change significantly, just in case, so that if you messed up, you could just rip it back up to that lifeline. I used to do that when I would get really paranoid that I was going to mess up and making a mistake would lead to some severe knitting consequences. But I've stopped doing that now, and I was trying to explain to her that you kind of have to understand the anatomy of the stitches and what you're doing in order to make that change. So I don't know. I thought that was just nice to see that I have made some progress in my knitting journey. So even as a self-taught knitter, it's nice to see myself learning and making progress and getting better at knitting. I think I'm gonna continue and hopefully finish this last round of decreases, and we'll check back in and see how the length of the sleeve looks after all the decreases that the pattern asks for.
Standing, legs up, that is honestly a win. I deal with maths.
I'm staying positive today. I'm not going to let it get me down, bring it home.
I did it! I finished all the decreases on my first sleeve of my cardigan, and I think it's looking good. I think the length is pretty good, so it's hitting right at that bone in my wrist. I assume the next bit is the ribbing on the sleeve and then binding off from there. It was nice to be knitting in the round again, and it made it really quick and easy and relatively painless to get through the first sleeve. But yeah, knitting the sleeve and knitting in the round again was a lot of fun for me. And knitting with these nails has also been extra fun. So normally if I have my nails done, I'll have just painted them myself. The only time I got my nails done in a salon, like proper gel nails, was for my wedding last year. And I got like this pinkish nude cat eye Japanese gel. And they were so pretty, but I was influenced by my cousin to try these press-on nails, and these were just a peel and stick nail, and it was really easy to do. And I put these on maybe 4 days ago, and they've held up pretty well. So these were a fun little discovery for me this week. And knitting with nice nails just makes the process feel so much more enjoyable. I am the type of knitter who enjoys the process of knitting, and the output is just a nice little bonus. So knitting with nice nails really just makes that process and the experience of knitting a lot of fun. But I will put this on hold for now, and we will get to the sleeve ribbing and binding off soon, hopefully, and then I'll move on to the next sleeve. So it's the end of the night and I'm about to wind down and read a little bit before I go to sleep. But I wanted to quickly share an update on my current read. And I'm around, I'd say, what is that? Like 30% of the way through. And I'm really enjoying it so far. I think I'm actually enjoying it more than I thought I would. So that's been a nice surprise. I feel a little weird and a little self-conscious about talking about my analysis of the book so far. But Jane is currently at Thornfield Hall and is working as a governess. And we were just introduced to Mr. Rochester a chapter or two ago, so we're getting to know him right now. But in terms of my reading experience so far, I think I mentioned previously that I mostly read contemporary books and books by contemporary authors. So reading something that was written, I think, in the early to mid 1800s has been a little bit of an adjustment. I've noticed that the vocabulary is a little more formal, so I've had to spend some time looking up words here and there. And then I don't know if it's characteristic of Charlotte Bronte's writing or this book or the writing of the time, but I found that the sentence structure is also quite different. The sentences just go on. And at some points as I'm reading, I just lose my train of thought and forget where we are, and I have to go back and reread some things. But it's still enjoyable. I think having to slow down because of the vocabulary or because of the sentence structure is actually helping me take my time to enjoy the book and let it simmer as I read. So that's my quick reading update. I think I also previously talked about the fact that this is my first time reading a physical book in a really long time. I think in the last 5 or 6 years, I've only been reading digital books on my e-reader. But this weekend, when I took a quick trip, I was flying basic economy, so I only packed one personal bag for the entire weekend, which meant this book could not come along. So I decided to download Jane Eyre onto my trusty e-reader, which I was hesitant to do because I knew I would enjoy reading it more on the e-reader, and I was really trying to give the physical book a chance. But I did want to share a resource, which maybe everybody knew about, and I'm just a little late to the game. But apparently books like Jane Eyre and a lot of older books where the copyright has expired are considered books in the public domain, which means that they are available for free, which is really helpful because a problem that I've encountered in the past when I wanted to read classic books that are borrowed from the library is that on Libby, it'll say that there's unlimited copies of the book, but when I try to sync it up to my e-reader, I could never get the book. So I found a website, I think it's called Project Gutenberg or Gutenberg Library, something like that. I'll try to link it down in the description below. But they had a bunch of old books with the EPUB files that were just ready to download. From my internet research, I'm pretty sure it is a legit website, so I hope I'm not sharing something that is not. If you want to take a look, I'll link it down below. But that's how I was able to download Jane Eyre for free to my e-reader. But yes, reading Jane Eyre from the e-reader has been an enjoyable experience for me. But I can't decide if I should just power through and read the rest of Jane Eyre from my physical copy while I have it. Yeah, I think I may be an e-reader kind of gal, which is nice to know about myself. But I guess I feel a little disappointed that I think I fell victim to a lot of the talk on the internet these days about returning to analog and returning to physical media and physical books, that I didn't take a step back to think about how I actually read. But I wouldn't have known if I didn't pick this up and tried it out. So it's good to know that for now. We'll see. Maybe I'll just switch between my e-reader and the physical book as I continue Jane Eyre. All that to say is whether you're reading a digital book or a physical book, it's the same story. It really doesn't matter. I think as long as we're reading, it really doesn't matter which format of book we're reading because it's the same book. But I will wind down and read my book. As always, thank you for listening and thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.